welcome back to another new video. We're talking about work from home and everything that I know on work from home today. Can you recall what happened last year and a half back? Suddenly, things changed drastically around the landscape, and it took us hardly 90 days to adjust to something new. Despite this, the way we think of where we live and how we live has totally changed. The whole landscape has changed in such a short period of time. Many people have told me that the pandemic has forced their hand and has potentially encouraged investment in new technologies or prompted a shift in operations in the last 90 days or so. And that's been a year and a half back that we're talking about. These developments are having a significant impact on businesses across the world. The work from home connotation, the work from home scenario, is one of the major improvements that we have seen. What began to keep workers, employees safe at home is now the most common work trend in the entire world, inspiring businesses to abandon these large scale real estates and building projects and lease agreements. Do you agree with that? While many of us have developed our own style and work ethic around the work from home scene, is there any particular way that we need to go about it that'll make us even more effective and efficient? So let's talk about how to handle work from home. Some steps to improve communication skills. 1. Establish a good schedule for sharing knowledge on digital media so that people aren't overwhelmed. 2. Establish daily contact points such as morning coffee, Skype meetings, or digital lunch breaks to communicate with other team members for information sharing, feedback, or socializing. Agree on what it takes to be an excellent digital colleague. Have these ground rules: transparency and appreciation. These are the two things that are absolutely necessary. And who is responsible for what? The who, what, when plan can help make our lives much more easier. Clarify each team member's duties when working from home. Send digital messages or snaps from time to time to the team to recognize community accomplishments and business news, or also share rewards and recognition instantly online. Promote openness and inclusion. It's easy to forget to include all participants in chats, so encourage debriefings, constant debriefings. Stay in touch, be in front of people, be connected. So that was about communication skills. Now about planning and managing teams, because that's really tough. 1. Make regular check-ins a habit. This may sound excessive, but it is critical for managers and teams that are new to remote working. Managers who are active in their remote leadership efforts are increasingly using video conferencing to create the face-to-face contact that is now missing, where email, phone, and text might have previously sufficed because people were in front of you. Beware of excessive communication. Beyond basic regular check-ins, over-communicating about the team's roles, duties, obligations, and ideal results is not really critical, which we'll discuss in a moment. In a typical office setting, a lack of communication may already be a problem. When workers operate remotely, however, they may be concentrating on new or different activities and goals. So you need to ensure that you don't excessively communicate, yet you ensure that there is a clear accountability for what needs to be completed. Use technology to your advantage. Most of us have been forced down a road of digital transformation all of a sudden, and that can take months or even years for some to implement in most of the organizations and throughout the organization. Easy platforms for tackling tips 1 and 2 that we talked about, they include Zoom, Google Hangouts, Microsoft Teams, which most of you are already using daily, almost every moment. It was a little unsettling at first, but once completely implemented, it has proven to be much more efficient. Easy platforms for tackling tips 1 and 2 that we talked about include Zoom, Google Hangouts, and Microsoft Teams, to say the least numbers, which most of you are already likely using at all times on a day to day basis. So it was a little unsettling at first, even for me. But once I completely implemented all of this, and once you are able to completely implement all of this, it will prove to be a great way to help communication strategies across your group environment, your organization's environment. And that's just for getting things done. Group engagement rules. You need to create engagement rules. In the military, we suggest the rules of engagement. When managers set goals for their teams and contact them frequently, it means the optimal timing and remote work become more productive and rewarding. We use video conferencing for regular check in meetings, but we use instant messaging when anything is absolutely urgent. For example, create guidelines for when team members should contact their manager, perhaps you, and when the manager should contact each team member, unless it's an emergency. There needs to be clear understanding of the kind of guidelines that we have. Also, make sure that your peers are sharing information when it's needed, only when it's needed. Keep expectations in check. This has always been a necessity, but it has become even more so in the current state that we are in. As previously stated, many companies and teams have been forced to pivot, some of them significantly, which means that the same workers will now be refocused on new subjects, new projects affecting skills and motivation, and therefore efficiency and the kind of outcomes that you're expecting. Set clear goals and solicit input to ensure that everyone is on the same page. Don't just assume that your team members know where they can concentrate their efforts, they know exactly what they need to do. A constant summarizing and checking for understanding is extremely critical in this environment. Now, adopting to the remote environment or the remote working environment, many companies have been made to embrace remote working because of the kind of situation that we are in. Some of them are actually returning back to the regular work, but which this has actually resulted in a lot of problems with access to data, assets, and information from various locations. For the most part, this has been an unplanned emergency plan, resulting in an initial scramble to put in place the bare minimum to allow communication and sanity. And that must have happened to you as well. Companies who use the common sense of urgency and need improvement to strengthen their business culture and working resources will certainly reap long term benefits. On the other hand, failing to take the necessary steps will result in inefficiencies and dissatisfied working force. Such inefficiencies and dissatisfaction may result in a loss of business and talent. In this case, it's critical to evaluate quickly the current situation so that you don't miss out on an opportunity and quickly deploy a solution that allows you access to documents, properties, and other information from multiple locations. It's extremely important that you create an online cloud based infrastructure and availability of storage. Now, up my forte, online training. Determine the kind of learning styles of your employees. Before deciding on an upcoming online training session, you can first determine the types of learners that you have at your business. There are 6 major groups of online learners based on their ability to learn online: the novice, the sporadic, the developing user, the established user, the embedded user, and the innovator. To determine where your workers actually fall, in which category they fall, assess them against each of these categories. After that, you will share your findings with the management team, with the training provider, to assist them in creating the best course for your team. It is crucial to assist your employees in making a commitment to their training. It's not easy to commit to home training completely. particularly if your workers work remotely and have several responsibilities, simultaneous responsibilities. Work does take precedence from time to time. So take a step back and think which is more critical for your company's goals. Getting a well-trained, up-to-date workforce, or finishing your current to-do list. Suppose you decide that the first is the more important. Then set flexible goals for your employees to meet. Consider adjusting your own deadlines and prioritizing your activities according to that. As a result, the workers' productivity isn't jeopardized as they expand their expertise and skills, and they will definitely become much more responsible in owning up on their own training and their own learning. A very major thing to decide or think about to consider is managing escalations. Be on the alert for signs of employee distress. To gain insight into employees' problems and concerns, use both direct interactions and indirect observations. Make it clear to staff that you should always respect and care for them, and you will always be available in case they need you. Provide managers with advice on broaching sensitive. Provide managers with advice on broaching better sensitive topics emerging from the COVID 19 pandemic, such as alternative work models, job security and opportunities, ensuring that you give them that assurance that their job is not going anywhere, the effects on staffing, the organizational stress, to promote daily discussions between managers and employees. The more the connection, the more the connectivity and communication, the happier your workforce and more productive your workforce would be. Your employees should be given the necessary tools that equip them to work from home. Assure that the workers have the material that they want to work on, adding more than just a phone and a laptop. Other than that, there are so many other things that they may need. Do your staff, for example, have enough cameras to attend virtual meetings? Do they need a webcam? Even if you don't have a lot of technology and collaborating resources, you can equip your workers to work efficiently from home. However, please don't presume that people are familiar with virtual communications or comfortable in that world. So acknowledge that interactive interactions are unique and will never be flawless, but maintain a professional demeanor and respect for others. Accept that some workers can find virtual interactions less comfortable and efficient, and train them on when and how to escalate unsuccessful virtual exchanges. If you haven't resolved a problem in 6 emails, for example, that's the time that a discussion has to be escalated. You need to actually pick up the phone and talk, or maybe the manager has to take this on. Time management when working from home. Emma Donaldson Fielder, a chartered occupational psychologist, has shared her time management tips to help you feel more in control, centered, and less depressed. She recommends making priorities and creating to-do lists that prioritize and schedule activities. Practicing the 4Ds can also help with email stress. The 4Ds is a very simplistic formula. Delete. About half of the emails you receive should be deleted because they're actually not for you. If it's urgent or can be done easily, go ahead and do it. If someone else can do it better than you, delegate it. And fourth, last but not the least, defer. Schedule time later to deal with actual emails that may need much more time, are more complex to respond to, or still have a deadline that is much later. So that's the 4Ds. A very important consideration is ergonomics. Do not hunch over your screen. Operate at a comfortable height, the way that we are talking right now. If at all necessary, use an office chair. Don't abandon your current chair though. Don't let your feet dangle. No dangling of feet. Do adhere to the 20-20-20 law. Now, I'm going to talk about that much later. Don't transform your couch into a workstation. Instead, Create a room that is tailored to your needs and your requirements. If you're not able to find such a room, at least designate a particular space in the room that you currently have in order for you to get into that mental zone to be ready for work. Balancing time, family time, and needs. Your capacity to strike a decent balance between the demands of family and work life is about to be put to the ultimate test, and it has already for the last 1 year. In the last few weeks, in the last few months, companies all over the world have shifted to remote working to increase social distance and counter the coronavirus pandemic. Many people are being forced to adapt to all these new ways of living, leading, and controlling. Universities and school systems also have sent students home to perform simulated learning, and daycare facilities are suspending programs. Of course, they're coming back now, adding to the pressure on your working parents. I'm a working parent too. I work from home. I understand exactly what I'm talking about. So you now have two worlds that are colliding, your work and your personal life. That was never supposed to be so close together, but I love it now. Working from home with a spouse or children, even if you're a seasoned pro, would undoubtedly present a whole new set of challenges. It has for me from time to time. But before you become absolutely frustrated, consider the following 5 suggestions to help you interact more efficiently, handle the inevitable tensions of this situation, and align conflicting interests. Plan holistically. Coordinate a completely new family schedule to actually accommodate all of these changes, all of the new needs that we have. Check in and reassess almost daily based on the dynamics of the situation. And take regular breaks from time to time. That's an absolute essential. This is a physical need, a physiological need too. Dedicate work and school space. The mental space has to accept work as work and school as school, right? And reset the expectations. Earlier, our expectations were very different. Today, our expectations are drastically different. So, reset expectations. Children's education. Scheduling is necessary, but don't try to recreate your workday while creating your schedule. It's essential to recognize that the situation has changed. Instead, make a regular plan for the whole family, including work and school activities, school schedules, and post it somewhere so that everyone can see it. I post mine on the refrigerator door so that everyone can actually see it. Um, it informs people of what to expect next, and that's what's happened to me. In this modern world where everything seems to be changing and it's changing drastically, this is something that help us look at a schedule and maybe understand how it's going, how the day is going to be. Focus on your most important activities first and don't overload your time if you need to be present for your children during the day for some particular reason. So be very careful about that. Identify the job goals and concentrate on getting the important things done first. The unimportant stuff you can deal with later. Non-linear jobs such as answering emails could save people periods of time. Some non-linear jobs like answering emails can be saved for a later time when you're watching your children and can be more flexible. And managing stress. Working from home and isolating oneself is a stress-inducing mix. But there are ways to mitigate it, ways to fight that. Take a break from whatever you're doing from time to time. Get up and move around. Change the environment. Call a buddy. Just chat up. And some compassion for oneself, compassion for the people around us also is essential. So, with this, I've shared everything that I've experienced and I actually know about the work from home environment. I hope this will be useful for some of you. And for those of you who have more suggestions, please pour them in. You can always comment on the description box. Look forward to meeting you once again with much more. Thank you and bye-bye.